Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today we're doing a 1 to 75 leveling guide for a Sentinel to Void Knight that will be based around using warpath and echoes along with some other skills. Now for the most part this goes very smooth during the leveling process. We did run this in solo self-found, we did stream the entire thing, and you do get a little bit squishy if you don't spend too much time gearing and really building into things, as we just kind of rushed through the campaign and didn't re-level or re-gear. And in solo self-found we obviously didn't have too many items to choose from, but overall the damage is really good and it is a really fun and visually pleasing build to do because it allows you to have warpath spec'd as a void, which is visually very beautiful, and then having it echo is a really cool mechanic for being able to kill all the enemies behind you. So once you get into the echoes and the echo chants, it becomes really fun, and it doesn't take too long to get in there once you get into the Void Knight mastery. Alright, as usual, we're going to break this down at specific points, and I will show you exactly where I put my passives, where I put all my skill points for my trees, and I try to break down the character sheet for what I'm looking for and what I need and what I haven't gotten yet to try and make it a little bit easier. If I've left anything out, or if you have a way that you would like to see these improve, be sure to let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. As always, be safe, and let's get into it. Alright travelers, we are now level 4, which means we get to pick our first specialized skill. So for us, we only have a couple of items that we found: a pair of gloves and a piece of chest, a little bit of physical resist, little armor, and a little extra health because we got some Vite on the chest piece, but that's it so far. No big changes there. Do work on getting your void at this point though. For skills, we're going to go ahead and specialize into warpath. We're going to end up building into a whole bunch of void and echoes. We're going to go warpath, we're going to go void cleave, and just kind of see where it goes from there. Our first point for this, we're going to go ahead and put into Unchained. Our first 3 points, 2 of them go here, and 1's going to go into Reckless Spin, so that mana will no longer be a problem. We'll just go ahead and get that -10 cost right out of there and be able to do 100% uptime with it. For passives, we're going to go ahead and put our first points into Juggernaut to go ahead and get some Void Resist. It's going to give us some Strength, which will make Warpath do a little more damage, 4% per point, and then a little Fire Resist as well. So 2 points there, and that'll be it. And I will see you guys at level 9 when we choose our second skill. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 8, which means we've opened up our second skill specialization slot. For our gear, we did get a little bit of Void. We haven't done any crafting yet. We still have the same 13 physical, which is from our gloves, and we got a little bit more vitality, 1 extra point, so our life is sitting a little higher, and we got some fire resist, which I believe came on the amulet that dropped. Got about 19% armor. Armor is one thing you definitely want to build up on this character, because for the Sentinel, armor stacks really, really well, and we're not really doing anything for damage at this point, but wearing a two-hander is going to help Warpath do more damage. It just comes with more flat base at this point, which is going to make it feel much better. It does have a lower attack speed, but the more hit damage is just going to feel better. For skills, we got 2 more points for Warpath. We did 1 point in Unchained, and then we'll put 1 point in Reckless Spin. And now that we've done those 3 points, we're at the point where you can do Warpath 100% of the time now. It has a no mana cost, so it's going to feel a lot better to just keep Warpathing all the way through the entire campaign at this point, basically. And for our next skill, we're going to go ahead and go Lunge. We're going to do Void Knight. This is going to be the main skill that we're wanting to use with Warpath, but we don't get it yet, so we'll do that as our third skill. So for Lunge, the first point that we're going to go ahead and put into this is going to be Warrior's Renewal. And that's because we'll get a cooldown on it for using Warpath, and on top of that, this will allow us to build into extra charges, and then we'll come down eventually and probably build into the Smite with it. And of course, we also want to get to that invulnerability. For passives, we got 5 more points. We're going to go ahead and put all 5 of them into Juggernaut. Once this is maxed, we're going to go ahead and start building into Armor Clad to take that 10% less damage. But for now, that fire resistance and the void resistance, mostly the void resistance, is really powerful at this point because we are facing a lot of void enemies. And that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 12, 13, and we'll do an update there. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 12. We have almost 300 health. We are working on our defense. We lost our physical, but we've gotten quite a bit of void, so we're not taking as much damage there. A lot of that came from the passive points that we put in the previous update. We have a bit of fire too. Again, at this point, void is the most important thing. Elemental won't hurt. Physical's also very good. So just try and build them all up. Everyone knows resistances are pretty important, and obviously the end goal, get 75% of all of them. We're still working on a little bit of armor. We will be building into that. We have a little dodge, but we don't really care about that. It's not something that we'll spec into at end game. For skills, we got 2 more points for Warpath. We're going to go ahead and put both of them into the Void Spiral. This will give us 20 added Void damage since we have a two-handed weapon. And then for Warpath, It is bugged. It should have the void tag, but it doesn't. So I think maybe once we put 1 point into 𝐒𝐿𝐲 Knight, it'll get the void tag, but it should get it. I know eventually it will get it. So it's going to be one of these two nodes that do it. And then for lunge, we have 3 more points. We're going to go ahead and spec into the double strike so that we have an extra charge of lunge. When we do want to use it, we can use it twice in a row. And then for passives, we got 4 more points. We're going to put 1 in Juggernaut, and then we're going to go ahead and put the rest into armor clad, so we'll take less damage. This will reduce the damage we take by 6% from nearby enemies. Again, nearby enemies is 4 meters, which is about the distance from the training dummy to the circle around it, which at this point in the game you probably don't even know what the training dummy is, but never mind, it's just a little bit of distance. That's going to be it for this update, and I will see you guys at level 20 for the next one when we spec into the 3rd skill, which will be Void Cleave. Alright, Travelers, we are now level 20, and we have opened up our 3rd skills specialization slot, so we're going to go ahead and put Void Cleave into that. But before we do that, let's go over the character sheet. We got just over 400 health. We're still working on our resistances. I would really like to get some physical at this point, but we just haven't been finding it. We have got quite a bit of Void. We've got some elemental, quite a bit of fire, but we'll work on, you know, kind of evening that out later. Right now, we still have about 20% armor, still a little dodge, but again, we're not building into that. And then for damage, some of the main things that you want for damage is just added melee damage to any two-handed weapon that you have. And then for survivability, some of the biggest things you want is make sure you have health on hit or melee damage leached as health. Those two things are really going to help you survive when using Warpath in this leveling guide. Alright, for skills, we got 3 more points for Warpath. We're going to go ahead and build all 3 of them into the Void Spiral so we can do a lot more Void damage. This is going to give us 50 total melee Void damage, which is a lot. It's more than our weapon is giving us. For lunge, we got 3 more points. We're going to start building towards the invulnerability while we lunge. We're not really using lunge too much. Eventually, we are going to respec it and use Erasing Strike and some other skills. But for now, we're just going to keep it. So we're going to put 1 point into Dawn Charge and 2 points into Juggernaut Dash. For Void Cleave, we got 4 points. The way we plan on using Void Cleave is it's going to be something that knocks us out of Warpath to use, and then we're going to follow it up with an Erasing Strike. So we want to build into making Erasing Strike have a guaranteed critical strike with it. So we're going to build down here towards the bottom left into the Obliterator node. So we're going to go ahead and put 2 points into the Depths, 1 point into Precognition, and then 1 point into Rift Maker as we continue our path down there. The other thing that we will do with it after we've done that is putting a lot of points into Crushing Blow so that when we use it and it does echo, our echoes are going to do some massive damage with it. For passives, we got 11 more points. We're only going to spend 9 of them in this update so that we can save the other 2 so that we can get into the Void Knight and get some melee leech as soon as we have access to that. So we're going to go ahead and cap out the armor clad so we take that less damage, and then we're going to put 7 points into Fearless for that vitality to give us a lot more health, and we'll have some extra health regen as well. Again, saving the 2 points so that we can put those into Void Knight as soon as we unlock it when we choose our mastery, because the node we really want is World Eater. So we'll be going with 5 points into Abyssal Endurance for the health, void, and physical resist, which will really help us with defense, and then into the melee damage leech as health. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 30-ish when we do the next one. Alright, travelers, we're now level 25. We've made it to the end of time, and we get to choose our mastery. But right before we do that, we're going to go ahead and cover the character sheet. We've got almost 600 life now. Still working on our resistance. Right now, before we go into Chapter 4, you really want to have physical and you really want to have necrotic. You don't see that I have much here, but it's something that I really need to pay attention to because we're going to start taking a lot of necrotic and a lot of physical damage. A lot of soul cages doing some dot damage to us. We're going to have some archers that are attacking us. Those are the two that you're really going to want to build into at this point. We got about 22% armor, and then we're still not building too much into damage. We're more of just letting our skills do the thing and just having the added damage on a two-handed axe for that. So we're going to go ahead and choose our mastery, which will be the Void Knight. This will be permanent. This is going to give us a permanent passive bonus of 75% increased melee void damage, and then it also gives us the echo effect, which are melee attacks, our throwing attacks, and void spells have a 10% chance to be repeated by an echo half a second after we use the skill. This excludes movement abilities and anomaly. However, warpath and void cleave both have nodes inside of them that will allow you to echo them, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go ahead and choose that mastery. It's going to be permanent. For skills, we got one more point we're going to put into warpath. We're going to go ahead and put it into Echo Knight. This is the node that will allow us to create echoes with warpath. If you want to watch that when we warpath now, as long as we've warpathed at least 2 2 seconds and moved 4 meters, we will have a chance, there it is, for an Echo to spawn. We got 2 more points for lunge. Both of these points are going to go into Juggernaut Dash as we get closer to unlocking Unstoppable, so that we'll be invulnerable while lunging. Again, this won't be one of our end game skills. We'll end up dropping out eventually for a different skill, but for now, it'd be nice when we do use it to be invulnerable. For Void Cleave, we got 3 more points. All 3 points are going to go into Champion of the Void as we keep getting closer to that Erasing Strike, having a crit every time that we use it. And again, the playstyle will be Warpath, generate mana, use Void Cleave, then use the Erasing Strike back to Warpath. For passives, we got 7 more points. We're going to go ahead and throw these points into the Void Knight so that we can get some melee damage leeches Void. We're going to put 5 points into Abyssal Endurance. This 5 points is going to give us health, void resist, and physical resist. And then the last 2 points are going to go into World Eater so that we get melee damage leeched as health, which is going to be really nice for the build. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 35 when we spec into the 4th skill, which will be Erasing Strike. Alright, travelers, we are now level 35, which means we've opened up our 4th skill specialization slot. So we're going to spec into Erasing Strike when we do the skills, but for now, let's do the character sheet. We got just over 700 health. We are capped down on Void. We are really working on physical. That's really what we want. And as we get through the next chapter or 2, we're going to start wanting to really get into the elemental, especially by the time we get to chapter 7 and chapter 8, because that fire and that cold is going to hurt a lot. But capping your physical and elemental is the next thing that we want to work on here. We still got about 20% armor. The dodge is slowly falling off as we're not building into it. And then for damage, we're really just taking as much added damage as we can get inside of the skill trees themselves. That's where we're getting our damage from. For skills, we got 3 more points for Warpath. We're going to go ahead and put 1 point into Apocalypse Roll, and this gives us the Void tag. So now we have the Void tag. The other thing that we need is we need to start getting into Dark Nexus so that we can get mana back every 3 seconds. So when we use Void Cleave and we use Erasing Strike, we'll have a way to generate our mana back while still dealing damage in Warpath. So we're going to put 1 point in Iron Reach and then 1 point into Rolling Still as we work our way towards that up there. For Lunge, we're not too worried about this. We are going to respec the skill eventually when we make up our mind, but for now we got 3 more points. We're going to throw 1 into being invulnerable while lunging and 2 points into Warrior's Renewal. For Void Cleave, we got 4 more points. We're going to go ahead and put the 1 point in Obliterator so that Erasing Strike will always crit when we use it after using Void Cleave. And then we're going to put the rest of the points into Crushing Echo so that it comes with more void damage. And if it echoes, when it echoes, this amount of damage will be tripled for echoes. And what this leads to right now is 45 more flat damage for us, and that's going to be 135 more flat void damage for echoes. And once we get it capped down, it'll end up being 225 for the echoes, which is a crazy amount of void damage. And then for the 4th skill, like I said, we're going to spec into Erasing Strike, and we got 5 points. The first 5 points that we spend with this, we're going to go ahead and put all 5 of them into Obliteration, because this is going to give us 30 added melee void damage with it, and that's doubled since we're using a two-handed weapon. We're then going to build into Implements of Destruction, and then we're going to work our way into getting into the Time Loop so that it will do additional echoes. This will cost a lot of mana, so we're not going to take that until we've really built into the Dark Nexus to make sure we'll get that mana back while warpathing. We also want to make sure our maximum mana is high enough to actually afford it so we can get back into warpath, but eventually down the road that is what we'll spec into. For passives, we got 14 more points. We're going to put 2 of them into Temporal Corruption. Then we're going to max out the World Eater, and then we're going to max out the Void Blades for all that melee void damage. And that's going to be all the points for this. Alright, that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at about level 42 for the next update. Alright travelers, we're now level 43 and we are in 𝐒𝐿𝐦𝐬. For this update, we're going to go ahead and put some more points into our skills, but we're not quite where we want to be with the build to be able to use everything that we are. We will respec the lunge and switch that over for anomaly for some more survivability. For the character sheet though, we got just over 700 health. We're still working on our resistances, but you can see we got our elemental up quite a bit higher, physicals up a bit more, and the void we lost a little bit. We're slightly under capped, but we're still working on getting all those capped ASAP. Right now, the elemental would be the nicest thing to have a little bit more of. We still have a little bit of armor. Dodge is slowly dropping off as we let it fall. And then again, for damage, we haven't really done any increased damage on any gear. We get a lot of the increased void damage from our passive tree, and then we just put a bunch of added damage inside the skill trees and on our two-handed weapon that we're using. For skills, we got 2 more points for Warpath. We're going to go ahead and put 1 more point in Ruling Steel, and then 1 point into Battle Master's Blade. And on the next point, we'll be able to get into that Dark Nexus, which will allow us to start getting mana back, which will allow us to start using our cycle of Warpath, Erasing Strike, and Void Cleave. For Lunge, we're going to go ahead and de-specialize this skill and then put in Anomaly once we put in our passive points, which we'll do right now. For the passive points, we're going to cap Abyssal Endurance. Then we're going to put 4 points into Woe. And then we're going to put the rest of our points, 2 points, into Singular Purpose for that increased void damage. That's going to unlock Anomaly. So back in the skills, we'll now put that in. For the first 6 points, we're going to put 1 point in Void Touched, 1 point in Immediacy, 1 point in Time Bubble, and then we're going to go ahead and make Time Bubble last as long as possible with 4 points there. And then after we cap that out, we'll go into Time Lord, we'll go into the Lingering Memory, build into the Crit Chance, and build into the Manipulation. And every time that we use Void Cleave, and then we use Erasing Strike, Anomaly, which we'll have on autocast, will be procced after that. For Void Cleave, we got 3 more points. We're going to go ahead and cap out the Crushing Echo for that added void damage, which is a huge, massive amount. And then 1 point into Abyssal Walker. The next thing that we'll cap out is the momentum for that damage. It will be able to get 80% more damage with Void Cleave if we use it after we've been channeling Warpath for at least 2 seconds, which we will be. And then for Erasing Strike, we've got 8 more points. We're going to cap out the Implements of Destruction. We'll officially do 100% more damage now with it. We're going to go with 2 points in Merciful for another 10% melee damage against damaged enemies, which most likely all enemies will be damaged we hit with it, because we would have already hit them with Warpath and a Void Cleave. Then we're going to put 2 points in the Erasure of the Living, so that we get 20% more hit damage, some kill threshold, but this is going to allow us to put a point into Time Loop the moment that we start getting mana back with Dark Nexus, so that we can actually build our mana back up and hopefully get to a point where we can keep this cycle up at all times. And that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 50 when we spec into our 5th skill. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 50, got almost 800 health, still working on capping out the resist. We've almost got all of the elemental under control. We are in Chapter 9 now. Poison is definitely something that you want. I've already died about 3 times to it. I blame my chat, but I'm pretty sure it was my own fault. We have about 22% armor, and we are still trying to get some necrotic. Haven't built any, haven't really struggled with the necrotic, but at this point, definitely get your poison up. For damage types, we're starting to build into void damage now that we do have the void tag for warpaths. We're at about 100% damage there. For skills, we got 1 more point per warpath. We're finally going to be able to get into that Dark Nexus, so we will generate mana every 3 seconds when we're warpathing, which will be really nice. For Anomaly, we got 8 more points. We're going to go ahead and cap out the Temporal Mastery. We're going to put a point in Time Lord. We're going to put a point in Lingering Memory. And then we're going to put all 4 in Decimation for that 120% crit chance. For Void Cleave, we got 1 more point. We're going to go ahead and start building into Momentum for that increased damage after we warpath. So as long as we're using warpath for 2 seconds and then we go to use void cleave, it will do more damage. And then for Erasing Strike, we have 2 more points, which we're going to go ahead and put 1 into the time loop so that we have 1 additional echo. And then we're going to put 1 into the Chamber of Fate so that we have slow chance on hit, and then we also do more damage against slowed enemies with it. We're just going to make it hit as hard as possible. For the 5th skill to specialize into, we're going to go ahead and go into Volatile Reversal so that if we run our sequence correctly, we'll be warpathing, then we use Void Cleave, then we use Erasing Strike, we'll be out of mana, and you can go back into Warpath and use Dark Nexus to get mana back, but we're going to try and do a time reversal really quickly to get our mana back. We're only going to go back 2 seconds. We don't care about the buffs. We're not going to try and stack it in 4 seconds. We only want to go back the time that it took to cast the 2 skills so we don't go super far back in direction and get our mana back with that. So we're going to put 2 points into Time Sap, 1 point into Time Lost Vitality, 2 points into Traveler's Fatigue, and then just in case we do go farther back, we do want the movement speed. The attack speed will be nice, so we'll build into both of those. But we're going to start with the 2 points in Catching Up. For passives, we've got another 8 points. We're going to go ahead and put 2 more points in Singular Purpose. We're going to put 5 points in Echoing Strike, so we'll now have a 20% chance for skill to echo and a 40% chance for the Warpath to have an Echo Warpath behind us. There'll be a 40% chance every second as long as we've moved more than 4 meters in the last 2 seconds and been Warpathing more than 2 seconds. That leaves us with just 1 point left, and that 1 point is going to go into Woe, just for a bit more damage. And that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 55. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 55. We have just over 800 health. Still working on capping out all of our resist at this point. We're in the Monolith before taking on Majasa. We really want to get our poison resist capped up and our physical capped, and then we'll go back and take her on. We got about 22% armor. Still building into damage. We have almost 200% increased void damage at this point. And then for defense, again, no critical strike avoidance yet. Still need some more endurance. We do have a little, but not much. And then for skills, we got one more point for Warpath. We're going to go ahead and put it into Dark Nexus so it can generate even more mana for us. We got 2 more points for Anomaly, both of which will go into Manipulation for the attack speed while it's active. 1 more point for Void Cleave. We're going to go ahead and keep putting into the Momentum so it does more damage after Warpathing. For Racing Strike, we had 1 more point. We put it into Void Prior. We're going to build into having a 30% chance for a Beam, and for it to do 80% more damage. That's where our final points will go into. And then for Volatile Reversal, we're going to max out that catching up for the move speed, max out the warped time for that attack speed, max out the time stat for the cooldown, and then 2 points into Ancient Reversal so we go even further back. Because the way Erasing Strike works, when it goes off, these echoes actually come 1 second later, and they don't consume the mana until that 1 second later. So once we get into a couple of these, we have to actually wait like 3 seconds from the time we use Erasing Strike to the time that we use Volatile Reversal to get all that mana back, because we've got to wait for it to consume it. And then the last point will be into Terminal Void Rift for that extra time rift when we use Volatile Reversal. Then for passives, we got 5 more points. All 5 of them are going to go into Time Legion to help increase that echo chance and make it to where Warpath and everything else is echoing at a higher rate. And then the next point is definitely going into Avatar of Regret in the next update. That'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 65. Alright, Travelers, we are now level 65. We have almost 1,000 health. We're getting really close to having all of our resistances capped. Still working on that necrotic and poison, and still trying to add in more armor. We did get a really good idol that had 35% increased armor, so that's where a lot of this is coming from. But as we find higher base types for our gear, it's going to go even higher. Our objective is to try and get somewhere around about 2,500 to 3,000 armor, which is going to give us about 60 to 70% damage reduction, which will be really nice. For skills, we got 2 more points for Warpath. We're going to go ahead and throw both of these points into Cyclone of War, and because we're using a sword, we'll get 4% more base global chance. So everything that goes off while we're Warpathing, which nothing's really going off while we're Warpathing, but the echoes from Warpath itself, which will help them do more damage. So we won't have to put melee critical strike chance on the weapon. Instead, we'll just get it right here, and this will allow us to do really good damage. And then on our weapon, it will allow us to just add more void damage and increase void damage there. So we'll do more damage overall. For Anomaly, we got 2 more points. We're going to cap out the Decimation for that critical strike chance. And then we're going to put 1 point into Time Eater so that we can start getting a lot of Leech for all the damage that we do, and this is doubled for void damage, which is our main type of damage that we're doing with all of our skills, which is really nice. For Void Cleave, we got 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and put both of these points into Momentum and cap it out so that after we're Warpathing and we use a Void Cleave, we will get 80% more damage with Void Cleave, so it's going to be hitting really, really hard. And then of course for Erasing Strike, we got 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and put 1 more point into the Chamber of Fate so that we do a 50% more damage against slowed, and the very first hit with it has a 100% chance to slow, so we'll have that slow on an enemy guaranteed by the second hit. We also have slow in other places, so they'll most likely already be slow, but this is going to add in some extra damage for it. The second point that we have, we're going to go ahead and put into Dust to the Wind so it hits in a larger area. Then for Volatile Reversal, we have 3 more points, and all 3 of them are going to go into Dark Expanse for that Void Rift area. We're not too worried about that. What we really want to build into is the Harbinger of Dust for that enemy damage taken when they're hit by a Time Rift. It's a more modifier, so it'll be really nice to have that as well. For passives, we have 10 more points that we're going to go ahead and put in. We're going to cap out our Echo Chance, 5 more points in Time Legion, and then 1 point in Avatar of Regret. It's going to max it out to where we now have a 40% chance for everything to echo, and then Warpath at this point, which is double that, will have an 80% chance to echo. And then our last 4 points are all going to go into Dread, so we have more void damage and more move speed. And then one thing we're going to take out is inside of our skills, we did not like the Void Beam. So for Erasing Strike, we are going to respec 1 point. We're going to take out the Void Prior, as we don't want to play with the beams. They look cool, but we don't like them. They're not really doing much for us. We're going to take that out, and we'll just get more area with that point instead. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 75. Alright travelers, we are now level 75 and finishing up this guide. Now we're 2 levels away. At level 77, don't forget that the Hollow Blade weapon becomes available, and it's really going to boost your damage a lot more, especially since it has that implicit of added void damage and void penetration. As you can see, for resistances, we're still working on poison, necrotic, and some lightning. Fire's getting really close, sitting at about 32% armor, and then for damages, we are sitting at just about 230% void damage. Remember, this was a solo self-found character. For skills, we got one more point for warpath, which we're going to go ahead and put into increasing the hit damage per point of time rot, or per stack of time rot on the enemy. So 1 point into Maul of the Deep. For anomaly, we have one more point. We're going to go ahead and get some more leech. For void cleave, we have one more point, which we're going to go ahead and spend in Rift Maker, giving it more vulnerability stacks on the enemy, as well as increased crit chance. For Racing Strike, we got 2 more points. Both of them will go into Dust of the Wind to increase its melee hit area. And then for Reversal, 3 more points, which we're going to go ahead and throw all 3 into Harbinger of Dust, so that enemies will take 30% more damage when they are hit by a Time Rift from Volatile Reversal. For passives, we have 10 more points, and they're all going to go into the Void Knight Mastery. We're going to go ahead and put all of them into Dread. This will give us more void damage and more move speed to make the build move faster and just feel better overall. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. Once again, all of the build planners are located in the written guide so that you can see all of this, what I'm wearing, my passives, where everything is at that level, and it'll go in order in that written guide. I'll also type it out if you just want to read it. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this leveling guide. Hope you enjoy the new Void Knight and all of its new skills. I had a lot of fun with it. The echoing warpath on the warpath skill now feels really, really good, and I really like it. And it really helps with... Alright, as always, stay safe, travelers, and have a good day.